Tim Pierce here. I'm going to teach you the intro to this song, and if you click the link below, I have a private video where I teach the solo that I just played. Also, when you click that link, you get access to a whole collection of private videos, including some beginner stuff and a video on strumming. Lots of stuff. Thanks so much for your support. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for all your comments. Keep them coming. It really means a lot. Let's dive in. Hey, you guys, you might already know this, but we are tuned down a half step, so it's the right thing for this song, and a lot of Hendrix's stuff was tuned down a half step. So just take each string, tune it down a half step with your tuner, and you'll be good to go. The first move on this, you're going to bar. I use my third finger on the 12th fret across the top two strings. You do a bar, and do a mute first of your finger just resting over the strings, and do a click, a downstroke click, just, right? You get a little bit of harmonic, that sounds cool. And then you strike the two strings, not three like I just did, and you slide down. And then you hit the low E and mute quickly with your left hand so it doesn't ring out. And then you do another chukka by muting the strings lightly with this hand. Moving on to the next phrase, we're going to do a hammer-on, and it's on string 5. We start open, and we hammer 2 frets up with the, I'm using my second finger. So check it out. String 5, just hammer. Make sure it sounds even when you hammer. And then grab these 2 strings, open, strings 3 and 4. If you grab string 3 alone, that's fine too. I've heard that done. And then bring your hand up, fret 5, strings 4 and 5, and you're going to bar across with your index finger. So you're barring right here, these 2 strings, and we do another hammer on. And that's with the third finger, 2 frets up on the 5th string. And then toggle over and bar the same place, but the next 2 strings over, strings 3 and 4, with the index finger, strike twice, and hammer once. So this move is, and you see what the index finger does? It's on strings 4 and 5, and then jumps over to strings 3 and 4. And that keeps you square. Well, square is not the right word in this case, but it keeps you solid. So let's do all of these in a row. And I already start to swing at this point. That's where you get kind of the beautiful feel going. I could never approach his beautiful feel, but you kind of create your own. I think that's the best way to do it. So here's the next couple of phrases. You take your thumb, and this is where, you know, I have small hands, so I have to do workarounds sometimes, but this particular thing I can do with my thumb. And he kind of slides into it. But do whatever you need to do to make it happen. Like I said, his fingers were kind of like almost twice the size of mine, so you know, we just got to do it our own way. So you grab that low note with your thumb if you can, and and then play the open G string, and then we're going to do a move that's another bar on the, on the top two strings, like we've been doing, but it's on the 3rd fret. So we go like this. We go, and this is a hammer-on pull-off, and as usual we want it to sound really even. We want to pick once, but we want the volume of the next two notes to be just as loud, even though we're using this finger to create those two notes. So check it out. One more time for me, I'll do it a little better. And then he hits this note, which is the octave below, string 4, fret 5, the 3rd finger. And then here's another double stop. It's basically going from the 3rd to the 4th of G, just G to G sus. I'm on strings 2 and 3, index fingers on the 3rd fret, 2nd fingers on the 4th fret. That's on string 3. See it right there? And what you do is a hammer on, and then pick that phrase. Hammer on, and then twice go, and then grab that G at the end of the phrase, which is 3rd fret, 4th string. Let's review. And in the example, I think I left one note off. These little things, you can take them or leave them. Do the best you can to do it like he did, and then kind of morph it into your own style, I say. One more time, I'll try and do it really smooth and connected. And you can see I'm doing alternate picking when I'm going, and it's a kind of soft alternate approach that I hear coming from his right hand. I don't think he's going, sounds more like just strumming across like this. But you're trying to aim only for those two strings. Okay, let's move on to the next phrase. So what you do, I think you give up the thumb. He probably didn't. He probably did it with his thumb. And it's it's this side of the thumb is hanging over so much that it's kind of the side of the thumb. So either way, you can do it either with your index finger or your thumb. And you play the A note, which is fret 5 on the 6th string. So check it out. I'll use my index finger because I think that's the most comfortable for me. And you do this move. It's another hammer on. We've kind of been here before. And you're on string 5, fret 4. Grab it with your index finger, hammer, and then blend in this note right here on string 3, fret 5, with the index finger. So it's real quick. And they all kind of ring together. And then restrike this note. So check it out. Alright? And then we move on to this kind of cascading. So what that is, your hand stays in the same place. We're on strings 2 and 3, fret 5. Same thing we've been doing, which is the barred index finger across two strings. Right? Okay? And we do hammer on, like we've done a bunch of times already. But this is a real staccato one where we just go up and stop. And then this hand kind of just lifts up and mutes so nothing rings. See how it stops and it kind of mutes all the strings? Okay? So we do it there. We do the same thing 2 strings over. Strings 3 and 4, fret 5, so check it out. Moving our index finger just over like that. And then this is a kind of 3-note hammer. So we move to the next string, which is the A string, hammer. And lastly, to finish out the phrase, on the low E string, we do one last hammer. So it's a very repetitive thing in a way. We hammer once again, and then we do this 3-note hammer, and then we hammer once again, setting us up for the low E. And I'll use that low E as the beginning of the next series. Let me review these two kind of slowly. or more accurately, do it once more really slowly. So we just slid down to E, and we'll call that E the beginning of the next phrase, because I think it kind of rings through a bit. Or you can let it ring through and it sounds pretty cool. So my hand is anchored on fret 7, index finger kind of across the strings. And the first move is to strike the low E string, and then with the index finger on the 3rd string, fret 7, and the 2nd finger on the 2nd string, fret 8, we do another hammer. But this hammer is with the little finger. And it's on the 2nd string. And like most of these, it's a whole step up. And it's an up-down thing, so hammer on pull-off. And you want to make it sound really even. Strike, but hit hard enough with your little finger that it sounds really strong, and then pull off hard enough, like that, that it sounds really strong to reveal the note underneath. So, to review. As you can see, you re-strike that double stop after doing the hammer on pull-off. And then roll your index finger while things are sustaining over here. You can still keep the low E and this note ringing. Roll it over to string 5, fret 7, and do this phrase. And I'll walk you through this. So, index finger, fret 7, 5th string, strike it twice. Go up 3 frets with your little finger. See that? And then we do another double stop, hammer on pull-off thing. Although it's not a pull-off, it's picked. So that moves. So let's break it into 2 fragments. 3 notes there, and then this next piece. And what that is our now typical index finger stretched across 2 strings, but it's strings 3 and 4 on the 7th fret. And then we do the exact same thing that we did in reverse. And that's how we complete that phrase. So check it out. But that's just a 2-note phrase. So it starts out, we'll do 3 fragments. And we connect them all really slowly. So to review, that's how it all works together. And the trick for me, I think, is to leave those, you've got 2 notes that you can sustain while you position your index finger in the new spot where you need to do the next phrase. And you can even leave the low E string ringing. It sounds really cool. Okay, so the next thing is where the biggest workaround happens for me. So the next thing is this. See, I can't even do it the way he did it because my hands are too small. So what he did was he barred this chord, and then his little finger did all the moves while he had the chord barred. And he barred it, I believe, with his thumb hanging over. So what I chose to do, my workaround, and you can find whatever workaround you need, is you strike the note, which is a B note, on fret 7, the low E string. And what I did, I used my thumb, I struck the string, the low string, and then I just chose to grab the top 3 strings rather than bar the whole chord like he did, because my hand just won't do it. And that allowed me to actually execute the thing smoothly. But you can bet that he had the whole chord, because you can hear that it's this whole chord with this note in it too. So if your hands are big, do it like he did. But if you need to do a workaround like me, then just do a workaround. And I'll show you mine. So you strike the low B note, which is fret 7 on the low E string. And then we go up here and do this move, and we're barring across 3 strings now. I think it's maybe the first time we've done that in this song on the 7th fret. Okay? And we do this thing. And that is, you want all the strings to ring, if possible, while you're doing this. And you take your little finger up to the 10th fret first string, walk it down to the 9th fret, and do this move. Beautiful little melodic thing. And then take the little finger and back to the 10th fret, but on the 2nd string, strike it there, and then strike the 2 top strings where your index finger is already anchored. So that's pretty simple. And it's basically that melody. So I'll do it really slow. So if I broke out the notes individually, it would be, to me that's kind of the melody he's playing. But you want to try and do that with all the other strings ringing while you do it. Check it out. Really the top 2 strings for most of it, but you start out with the top 3. And I think he's doing it with 4 strings. That's because his hands are so big. So, check it out. After you've done that, you do this really cool little chromatic thing. And it's really quick. I think it even stops in a staccato way. So all it is your hand is here, move it down a half step, pick the low note, then pick string 3, and then pick strings 1 and 2 together. But that is on fret 6. So to review and put it in perspective, and then you mute by raising up your index finger so that the strings just kind of die. You don't want it to sustain. Our next move is to play the same thing on fret 5 and hit the A minor. So we were here. We drop to A minor and do the same thing. Hit the low E string on the 5th fret with the thumb. You can do it with this finger if you want, but I'm still able to do at least this with the thumb. And then the top 3 strings barred for the A minor. And then the biggest stretch of all, and this one for me, I literally have to change my body position. I have to like bear down over the guitar and I bring my head down. This is such a big stretch for me with my hands being on the smaller side that I have to really kind of bear down on the guitar to do it. Index finger's on the 3rd string, 5th fret, right? And then the little finger is on the 4th string on the 9th fret. And then you pluck these 2 strings, you get that beautiful dissonance. And then you walk down a whole step, and then another whole step, and then you have to bar with your index finger strings 3 and 4 to pick up that 3rd one. So that's the walk down. Down a whole step on string 4, down a whole step again on string 4, and bar across strings 3 and 4. And then we go to adjacent strings, and we do this. The little finger is on fret 8, string 5, and the index finger jumps over. Well, it's actually already there on string 4. You get that double stop, and then you walk down a half step, your 3rd finger, on the 7th fret, and play that double stop. So here's the 5-note, the 5-step phrase. Really beautiful. And then the next move is to jump back here and do that. Index fingers on strings 3 and 4, and you just walk up a whole step on string 4 with your 3rd finger. So put that all together. So pretty much I've just discovered that my index finger doesn't really move during this whole series. It's kind of barred across strings 3 and 4 on the 5th fret. and it kind of stays there. I think that's a good way to work it out. And then we bail out and go into the next phrase by coming down to the 6th string. I'll choose my 3rd finger, and we just walk up from fret 5 to fret 7 with a slide. And I think I might have gone, that sounds sweet too. Did you use 2 strings? Just make it your own. And then we go into one of the most beautiful parts of this whole thing. Take your thumb on the low string, fret 3, and then we do this shape. Okay, so for me, once again, it's kind of a stretch because my hands are small. We want to form this chord, and the way to do it is little finger, 1st string, 5th fret, index finger, 2nd string, 3rd fret, then the open G, and then 3rd finger, 4th string, 5th fret. This is a chord shape that then you can use for lots of Hendrixy stuff later on. Once you have this chord shape, check it out. Something he used a lot. So, but to make this happen, take your thumb, grab that note, grab the chord shape that I just spelled out, and hit it and slide it up 2 frets. This is how it works. So you don't stay there, you start there. You start on G and slide up to A. Slide back down. Slide back down again to F. You do a little strum. The way this works is... And to explain the way it slides, slide up, slide down. So, slide up, hit it, and then hit it before you slide down to F. Grab the low F note and do a strum. One more time. Even one more time. And then, lo and behold, we just grab a C chord. But there's a really amazing thing that he does. He goes, and it's kind of, I did that I think, but it's just walking through the C chord with your right hand, picking, just a boom chick. He moves the 2nd finger over and does that beautiful little thing. It's really unusual and unique, and I didn't really play it that way for the last 20 years. I learned that, a few weeks ago. So what you do is you play the C chord and then move your 2nd finger over 1 string to the G string, 2nd fret, and you play that double stop, just strings 2 and 3, and then pick up this D note on the 2nd string, 3rd fret, and do a pull off. And the trick is to try and move your 2nd finger from string to string kind of silently. That's been the hard thing for me. Is try and remove any kind of trace of you moving over. Try and keep it connected and sustained. I think what helped me was to hammer on. I think that's what helped me, sort of, was to hammer on this first kind of move. And once you've got that as smooth as you can get it, we're in the home stretch. So our last destination on Little Wing is a D chord. We're on the C chord. And we slide up with the 3rd finger from fret 3 to fret 5 on the 5th string. Strike it twice. And then with the 2nd finger on 2nd string, 3rd fret, and index finger on 3rd string, 2nd fret, that's 1 and 5 of a D chord, we strike that. And do a hammer on. So it's kind of a double hit, hammer on, and then restrike the first thing. So I'll back up. While that's ringing, take your little finger on the 4th string, 5th fret, and then we strike that double stop. Our findex, I love mispronouncing words. The index finger's already on the 2nd fret, 3rd string. So you grab that double stop, and then you have to mash the index finger down for a bar, strings 3 and 4, fret 2, and finish out with. Sliding up from the C, and you see it's mostly downstrokes, except for that cha-gang gang, and then a staccato end. Now there's an overdub guitar on the record that comes in a couple of chords prior to this, and I hear that overdub guitar up in this position. But we're only one guitar player, and we're down here on this C, and really I've kind of researched this. The only way to be smooth is do that position. And then, just to release a bunch of tension, get the ecstatic experience of dropping the wang bar. If you have a wang bar, what that is your 3rd finger lightly across the 12th fret, so you get all the harmonics. Best feeling in the world.